Hello all of you. I'm Kanishk Sir and I teach political science optional. In GS I take classes for Polity IR. I've been teaching for the past 10 years. Other than teaching, I also write columns for some newspapers, magazines, and I do book reviews. So here, are you still in that state of dilemma? Which optional to study? How many of you are in a state of dilemma? And how many of you have decided with PSIR? Okay. So there must have been some considerations for you people who have decided to go with this subject. What was that? If you can tell me a few points. Interest. Okay, and overlap with GS. Any other thing? Your reason? Achha, you did honors in political science from DO. Okay, okay. So of course you must be having some interest into it. Okay, fair enough. So how do we decide on an optional? I'm sure you have a fair bit of idea. I would like to add some of my points into it. That on what basis we decide optional, how optional preparation is different from GS preparation, why studying this subject matters in this exam, and then we will see the overlapping with GS and how to approach this subject. This is how the session would progress today. So when we have to decide upon the optional, then yes, there are certain considerations. First thing is your expertise in the subject. How much you know about that particular subject. Someone who has done a lot of study, who has done masters or MPhil or research on a particular subject, on a particular topic, will always be inclined to study that subject, even for this exam. Or if number crunching comes naturally to you, you might be inclined to take mathematics. If data interpretation and analysis comes naturally to you, you might be interested in statistics. That's again an optional. If someone has stopped into his BTech with core subjects, he might take engineering subject. He or she might take that. So first thing is, do we have such leverage in any subject? That yes, I have an extra edge in this subject, so let me study this subject. So honestly speaking, most of us will not have this expertise. Okay. Generally speaking, for most of us, for most of the aspirants, the expertise would be missing, even if you have done your PG or UG in a particular subject. So that bachelor's or master's degree might not be giving you the necessary leverage. So what comes next? And if there is some subject in which you think you have an edge, you are all free to take that. If you think that you can go for number crunching, if you see numbers and your mind starts something which Ramanujam did. His friend Hardy told him that what a boring number plate it is. Okay. So what Ramanujam said, no, he made out a series out of it instantly. So if this is what attracts you in any subject, please go for it. Irrespective of attending any session. Please go for it if you have such advantage in a subject. This is the first thing. But as I said, repeating it again, that this is something we lack. So then what? What will be the other consideration? The interest, as you said. So what makes this subject interesting for you? That's half of it. Yes, international relations. नाम ही है political science and international relations. बच्चे capitalism है तो socialism भी है. He's saying Adam Smith and capitalism, you have to study socialist also. They will criticize Adam Smith and other free market thinkers. So okay, if this ideologies appeal to you and international relation appeals to you, yes, they form a considerable part of this subject. So interest, how this interest comes when you tend to know something about it, you must have studied about the scholars and the thinkers that you are mentioning. So by default, you are watching some videos on these topics, which are by default part of PSIR, right? Okay. So कब से करोगे काम? More than a year. So now when you are preparing, please don't watch random videos. We will tell you what to watch, okay? Random videos will consume lot of your time and resources and data also. So don't do that randomly. There is a method of doing these things also for references. But yes, it has cultivated your interest, so cherish this thing. So interest matters here. And how many of you think that you are attracted towards a particular subject that like he has for political science, maybe some any other humanities subject? So there may be some interest, okay? And while studying general studies, because in paper 1 you study about history, geography and parts of sociology is there. Paper 2, polity, IR governance is there. Paper 3 you have economy, environment, so on and so forth. So while studying GS, what I always say is that when you study GS, which is a compulsion, you don't have choice. तो करना ही करना है. 1000 marks is a compulsion. This 500 marks is optional. I'm not counting the essays here. Essay would be an extension of your general studies and to an extent you're optional. So while studying your general studies, someone might feel history is very interesting. There are students who say this. Some students might say that geography is very interesting. And for many, IR and ideologies and polity also is very interesting. So this will vary from individual to individual. Okay, what appeals to you might not appeal to her and vice versa will be valid in this context. So second consideration would be your interest. If you see that yes, this subject is appealing to you, now how do you find this thing? How do you ascertain your interest? So the most basic thing to do here is to find out your interest, even at an elementary level, is to go through a basic book on that subject. For political science, I would refer to the 2 books of Standard 12th, Contemporary World Politics and Politics in India Since Independence. Just study 1 chapter each from both. You will find out for yourself if this subject is worth studying. Okay, and for any subject you can do that. For sociology, for geography, for history, psychology ki books, NCERT ki, you can pick it up, very basic book. Okay, this will tell you your interest lies here or not. So second factor would be interest. Then guidance. And by guidance, I don't necessarily imply a classroom coaching. It can be someone who can guide you on this subject, who knows this subject better than you and who knows the exam also better than you. 2 conditions. Subject scholars बहुत हैं. Okay, there are many experts on subject, but are they fit for this? Will they fit in this exam? This is the second criteria. So first, knowing the subject. Second, knowing the exam, the pattern of exam, what this exam demands. We'll come to these things. So if you can find someone who can guide you, classroom of course will be all encompassing. If you're going for classroom, you have outsourced all these things to us. Okay, so guidance. Now, guidance and overlapping with GS. A pragmatic choice we have to make. How much of this optional overlaps with my general studies? So for that, the easiest thing to do, which we'll do here also, is to open your 4 pages syllabus of GS 1, 2, 3 and 4 and any optional that you decide. Okay, any optional. I would not go for prelims because in prelims the questions vary. 1 year you might have 5 questions from history, other year you might have 20 questions from history. So that is not fixed. हिस्ट्री से कुछ भी आ सकता है, ज्योग्राफी से कितने भी क्वेश्चंस आ सकते हैं. दिस वेरीज फ्रॉम ईयर ऑन ईयर एंड देयर इज नो फिक्स फॉर्मूला टू pick this, the year in which you will appear, which subject will have more questions, which subject will have less questions. There is no one can do these things. Better if we don't go by probability. But for mains, it is fixed. 250 marks, 20 questions are fixed. Aana hi aana. It's a constant. It will not go anywhere. It cannot be undone. So you can see the papers, GS papers, and how much it overlaps with the optionals. So overlapping with GS, guidance, and when we mix all these things, 2, 3 and 4, leaving the expertise part, because we have come to a consensus that expertise would be missing from most of the aspirant. This element would not be there, largely present. So if we combine all these things, गिन के 6 से 7 subjects बचते हैं. Right? We can count them on our fingers. 6 to 7 subjects are there. All humanity subjects. Right? All of them are humanity subject. So there you have to find for yourself. Of course, I'll be doing it for my subject. So these are the considerations one should have before deciding the optional, irrespective of whatever one says. No need to get carried away by, even if the toppers say this. See, that might have worked for that individual, may not work for you. Don't go by what faculties say. I will always talk about PSIR, that is my subject. But will that hold true for you? You need to decide for yourself. Okay, so these are the primary considerations that you have to do, and it will not happen in one day. Take 10 days. कोई इसमें हड़बड़ा के नहीं करते हैं काम, आराम से होता है ये काम. It is not something which will happen. You sleep after studying the syllabus and everything, you go through it, next morning you will find it out. ऐसा नहीं होने वाला है. So take some time, a week or 10 days is more than sufficient in finding it out. This is the thing that you have to do. Now, for this particular exam, GS all of you must have studied at least by yourself to an extent. कुछ तो पढ़ा होगा खुद से. So how preparation for optional is a bit different from GS. Let us discuss this for a few minutes. See, in general studies, you don't go by a lot of citations and scholars. Okay, GS is stating the obvious. For polity and IR, if there is a Supreme Court judgment, you have to write it down. And this is what happened. Supreme Court upheld right against climate change, a part of Article 14 and Article 21. You don't have to go into the jurisprudence of this judgment. India is taking a stand in the unfolding crisis in West Asia. Why India is doing it? Here are 4 or 5 points. Okay. Now, in general studies, you don't have to quote a lot of scholars, or for that matter, public intellectuals also. But in optional, these are compulsions. Optional may you have to quote scholars, you have to quote subject experts and public intellectuals. That is where optional varies from GS. Optionals have lot more of depth. Okay, you need to have that level of expertise here. After you are done with your preparation, of course, this will come. So general studies is at a very elementary level. Optional requires certain amount of depth. Okay, that is the difference. And here we go by citations, we quote the scholars, we see the inside out of a particular subject. That's where it varies from general studies. Now, often what happens, someone sent me this meme. I think this is relatable. That what happens to aspirant during course of preparation. Can you spot your optional here? Can you? Optional is the one who is going for the kill, right? Here. The one which is going for the kill. Now, the message I want to convey from this meme is that optional actually is the make or break here. Here it is intending to break the candidate. We will see how it can make our selection. Why? Because in general studies, choice is not there. Whether you like a particular subject or not, you have to study it. There is no denying this fact. And you have to study it despite whatever you feel about it, whether you understand or not, you have to comprehend that content. You need to approach this particular thing which you are not studying, reach out to the faculties, reach out to your mentors, and कहीं ना कहीं से वो करना ही पड़ेगा. Selective study करके exam नहीं निकलेगा. So everything you have to do whether you like it or not, but optional is something which you pick for yourself. Okay, it is something which you pick for yourself. Now this 500 mark optional has the potential to decide your selection. In GS there is not much scope for maneuvering. Why I am saying this? Because if we see the past 10 years marks which have been there, on which people have got calls from the interview. What do you think? Which paper in GS is the most scoring in the past 10 years? Leaving the essay, I am talking about GS and optional. Paper 2 and paper 4 also, I guess. Right, ethics paper is also scoring. सबके number आए नहीं हैं, but number आते हैं उसमें. Paper 2, paper 3 not so scoring. And same can be said about paper 1, generally speaking. There are exceptions and aberrations, I am not going into that. So, why you ever wondered why paper 2 is one of the scoring paper of GS 4 papers? why paper 2 always toppers have the range of marks 120 and onwards and not in paper 3? So paper 3 appears to be a bit more technical owing to economy, environment, okay, some level of technicality is there. So in GS paper 2, don't we have technical things in polity and IA? But still, people have scored marks into paper 2, generally speaking more than paper 3. The reason is that it talks a lot about specifics and a lot more objectivity is there. Okay, if the judgment states something, that is what you have to write. You don't have to be critical of it just for the sake of it. If an amendment, 106th amendment gives 1/3 reservation, you cannot contest the very fact. And purpose क्या है 106th amendment का? Women empowerment, right? So whether it happens or not remains to be seen. But as I said, objectivity and specifics are amply present in GS paper 2. If India is taking a stand in Russia-Ukraine war, it is quite evident. You cannot do anything about it. Whether right or wrong, this we can discuss in optional, not in GS. GS does not require that. But in optional, we can go by the comparative virtues of an issue. But still, facts will remain fact. And quite simple facts are there. Yes, India has not criticized Russia. And in West Asian crisis, India appears to be on the side of Israel and US as of today. Tomorrow it might change. Okay, tomorrow it might change. So less complicated, objective and specific facts are there. Extension of paper 2 can be found in PSIR optional. So that's why I said that select your optional very carefully, because that's the potential to make or break you. Okay, that's your choice. You decide whether you will study that subject or not. So due deliberation must be exercised very cautiously. You need to consult yourself, not a lot of people. Lot of people might confuse you. So just see it for yourself. As I say, it varies from people to people. जैसे हर किसी का schedule vary करता है. There cannot be a ready-made schedule which anyone can draw for all of us. How to study and when to wake up. No, this varies. There are people who are nocturnal, who stay awake all the night and keep studying. There are people who get up very early in the morning. Now both of them have qualified the exam. So there is not one way of doing it. It's very subjective. It varies from person to person. Crux is that select your optional carefully, cautiously, and considering all the factors that we have talked about here. Now, why this particular subject and how to go for this subject? So first thing is the duration. Duration of any subject matters. For optional, I would say that right from the classroom to the time you appear for your mains exam, 1.5 to 2 years is what you need, because I am considering the GS preparation also. You are not preparing for this optional in isolation. You are doing it along with your general studies. So 1.5 to 2 years is all it will need. It is something which class will be covered here, tests will be here, everything, and your self-study module. So first thing, duration, which I said, 1.5 to 2 years. Now early start advantage, this is the March that we are having, month of March. So why it makes sense to start early, why preparation should be done early? The only reason is when your exam approaches, you should be seen less in the class. Exam जब आ रहे हो तो यहाँ मत दिखना या कम दिखना. Okay, during exam, when your exams are 1 or 2 months away, you should not be spending 7 to 8 hours in coaching. That is the time for revision, that is the time for tests, that is the time for answer writing. So if you start early, your classes will wind up early, much before your exam actually approaches. So March and April are months for self-studies, tests, regular evaluation, working on your weakness, which part requires more attention, snapping through the PYQs, solving more mocks. This is what months close to exam are for both prelims and mains. So before that, at least significant part of your optional should be done. That is why starting early matters here. Now, detailed preparation. Here in optional, the devil lies in details. In GS, you may skip the details, but that's not the case with optional. A lot of detailed analysis is required here, and from all angles. What do you mean by all angles? It has to be an all-encompassive preparation. How? We need to know the pros and cons and a neutral conclusion. So what I mostly observe is that people tend to take a stand. So avoid taking a very, strong stand on any topic for your optional. You might not like it, or you might like it a lot, but still don't articulate it. Indian foreign policy. India was skeptical of doing certain things. There are reasons for it. Whether those reasons are justified or not, we can have 4 or 5 points around that. Okay, so detailed analysis is required, which needs perspective from all the angles, both pros and cons, and a neutral stand, which leans in favor of the state. People often get carried away studying humanities. They try to replicate what they exactly read in their newspapers. Don't do that, that will be counterproductive. You don't have the liberty of the newspaper that you read. So the columnist may have that liberty, you are not at that liberty. He is not appearing for the exam, he does not even have eligibility for it. Your words, your lines have to be very carefully chosen. Don't be overtly critical. Don't get into that perpetual activist mode. This subject has lot of options for these things. That's why I'm giving these disclaimers. So try to maintain a neutral stand which leans, थोड़ा सा झुका होगा state की तरफ. Of course, you can offer policy criticisms to the extent that you require. Then comes the answer writing thing. So answer writing here is actually a skill. And why it is a skill which people don't have before they prepare for this exam? Because irrespective of the background that you have, academic background, तीन ही होंगे ना, humanities, commerce or science, none of you have been trained for this exam. See, in college what happens? People with humanities background, they are very fond of writing. And they can write good essays and good pages and can choose if articulation and flowery language is there. That will also give an edge, at least in universities. Here you have to write within the time, within a particular time, and with a specific word limit. So if you don't cover all the questions, already you have jeopardized your chance of an interview call. So the words that we have to choose have to be very to the point. Okay. Now how do we express ourselves in less word? If word limit is not there, you can think upon, you can write a lot. But when you have to write within that specific word limit, that is where the real challenge comes. So no one writes a perfect answer on day one. But if you keep on writing, this will certainly improve. If you keep on writing every day or maybe alternate day, you will certainly improve. Honestly speaking, I have not been in favor of students writing from day one. My idea was that they need to know something before they write. But then I discovered, and I was rightly told, that even when they are selected, no one can write a perfect answer. So the more you write, the more better you become. First answer may not be good. Keep it with you. Write the 10th answer, write the 50th answer, compare it by yourself. See where you are. And of course, these toppers copies and model answers given by the institute is always there. But don't right away jump into it. You see where you are, then you will make a progress. So yes, answer writing is sufficient, is very much required. Where do we get this answer writing practice from? From the tests and from the PYQs. PYQs should be very liberally referred. Keep turning the PYQs at least for the last 5 years, because even IR questions would be of recent happenings, geopolitical happening around the world. And the last thing, tests. Regular tests will give you feedback where you are lacking, Which area you need to focus upon? See, this optional, like any other optional, has 2 papers, each paper divided into 250 marks, and each paper is further subdivided into part A and part B. Now for PSIR, part A of paper 1 is mostly theoretical in nature. Most of it is theoretical. There is not much scope of maneuvering in theoretical papers. You need to know the theory. The thinker said something, and the thinker passed away long back. You cannot improve upon what he said. Now, how to find the relevance of these thinkers? You have certain interest. You must have heard about Plato. प्लेटो नाम सुना है? हाँ, है, सिलेबस में है. हाँ, तो सिलेबस देखने की भी आदत डाल लो. ओके, जस्ट 5 minutes you see your syllabus. Any idea who is Plato? Where he comes from? यूनान को अंग्रेजी में क्या बोलते हैं? ग्रीस. यस. एरिस्टोटल के गुरु थे और किसके डिसाइपल थे? Socrates. Yes, you're right. So ancient Greek philosophy, we are talking about Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Who was disciple of Aristotle? Alexander. So see the lineage. परंपरा देखो. So प्लेटो ने एक कंसेप्ट दिया है ऑफ फिलोसफर किंग. सी, कुछ पढ़ेंगे नहीं हम लोग, जस्ट टू गिव यू सम एग्जांपल. फिलोसफर किंग किसको बोलते हैं? एनी आइडिया? प्लेटोस फिलोसफर किंग. जिसमें थोड़ा रीजनिंग की पावर हो, राइट? एनलाइटेंड हो, पढ़ा लिखा हो, राइट? वेल वर्स्ड इन व्हाट? स्टेट क्राफ्ट. वेल वर्स्ड इन स्टेट क्राफ्ट. यस, should know the essential philosophies and thoughts. Now this question has been asked in your exam many times. पिछले 10 साल में 3-4 बार तो ये क्वेश्चन आ चुका है प्लेटोस फिलोसफर किंग पर. You can see the PYQs. So what you will write on philosopher king? In class we discuss the same things. 5-6 good points we will come across. How to introduce it? You will write about ancient Greek philosophy, certain ideologies, what Plato talks about. He's an idealist. So what is that? 1 line introduction, 2 line introduction. Then what are the components of philosopher king? What made him talk about philosopher king? What are the characteristics and traits of philosopher king? Everyone can write this. Once you study about Plato's philosopher king, it's not a very difficult thing. So when everyone will write it, how will you have a comparative edge? What can you say which Plato has not said? Certain examples you can give. Around the geopolitical happenings, you can pick certain example from geopolitics. If I were to write on Plato philosopher king, I would conclude my answer with Ayatollah Khomeini. Why? इनका नाम तो सुने हो ना? You know the 2 words I mentioned. Everyone. Who is he? Supreme leader of Iran. We have a new one now. So even the previous one, Ali Khamenei I am talking about, who has been assassinated by US 1989 to 2026. Now you may or may not like his regime. There are reasons why people like his regime. There are reasons why people dislike his regime. We are not even going into that. But no one comes closer than Ayatollah Khomeini in Plato's philosopher king definition. He was a great scholar of Shia branch of Islam. He was the supreme leader of Iran. And he is the one who decided almost everything, including the elections, the president, the Shura Council, the IRGC, whatever the stuffs are important in Iran, that always used to pass away through him. That is what philosopher king is. Dr. Kern Singh, इनका नाम सुना है? He is son of Raja Hari Singh. This name you know? Who is Raja Hari Singh? Jammu and Kashmir. So Dr. Kern Singh was a long time Congress MP. Yeah, Rajya Sabha member. Last tenure was a Rajya Sabha member. So you know this much. When did his tenure end? Somewhere around 2017-18. 6 years as Rajya Sabha. पता है ना 6 साल का होता है. So when his tenure was ending, you know, Rajya Sabha is a permanent house. It does not dissolve. 1/3 people retire every second year. Basic polity I'm referring to. So the then law minister, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, he's a senior BJP leader. He was law minister during that time. So he gave a farewell speech on Dr. Karan Singh, and he referred to Plato's Philosopher King in the parliament, in Rajya Sabha. That when I see him, this is the law minister of India speaking in Rajya Sabha, when I see Dr. Karan Singh, I am reminded of Plato's Philosopher King. And then he described 2-3 qualities what Plato has talked about and tried to strike some similarities with the retiring member. Now such examples will give you an extra edge in this paper. Okay, if you give such analogies, certain contemporary examples, the person who is checking your paper gets an impression that you have not mugged it around. You can find relevant examples around you. अब इतनी बात हो रही है इजराइल, ईरान, यूएस पर, कहाँ कोई कह रहा है कि Ayatollah Khomeini is closest to Plato's Philosopher King. You can write this. This is a novel point. Okay, Karan Singh people might have forgotten, but such examples will make your answer stand out. It will be very impressive. So, as I said, paper 1 part A mostly theoretical. Theory तो समझ जाओगे, ideology समझ में आ जाएगी. If you pay attention in the class and if you revise it regularly, if you write answers, if you appear for the test, content will be good. Comparative edge comes through application. Are you understanding this thing? The edge comes through contemporary application which we see around us. Now see the paper here. This is the part A which I am referring to. Okay, as I said, mostly theoretical in nature. The first two topics, political theory, meaning and approaches, theories of state, liberal, neoliberal, Marxist, pluralist, post-colonial, and feminist. Every year without fail you get at least one question from these two topics. You might get 2 questions also. Okay, so one question, any exam, any year you pick up is from the first 2 topics, maybe 2. 10 to 30 marks. Okay, 10 to 30 marks depends on whether it is a 10 marker or a 15 marker. Now the remaining topics, justice, equality, rights, democracy, concept of power, ideologies, this is IPT, Indian political thought, and WPT, Western political thought, largely theoretical. The concept of justice has not changed even since ancient Indian philosophy or Greek philosophy or political thought, the more precise term to use. Yes, dimensions of justice keeps on changing. Certain contemporary thinkers like Amartya Sen have given their own analysis of justice. Okay, but justice, what is justice? Being just and free of any prejudices and discrimination. Very elementary definition. But yes, there are several dimensions. So this part is largely theoretical in nature. Yes, we study certain ideologies. You see some of them are mentioned here. Some of them are not mentioned here. Post-truth is not written in your syllabus, but we have to study about post-truth. Okay, postmodernism is not mentioned here, but we have to study about postmodernism also. So there are specifically mentioned ideologies. Some of them are not mentioned. They are on the periphery of these ideologies. We need to see both of them. What is directly mentioned and what is on the periphery. Postmodernism, post-truth, and several others. और भी बहुत चीजें हैं. Now the application of these ideologies and these concepts you will come across in your paper 2 part A. In this part. See, paper 2 is comparative politics and international relations. Now in GS we do study international relations. Right? Last 4 questions GS पॉलिटी के IR के ही होते हैं. कितने मार्क्स के आ रहे हैं? Every year 2 marks, 2 questions of 10 marks and 2 questions of 15 marks. This is what for past 5 years they are asking in GS paper 2. There we don't have to study theories in GS. We don't have to. Yes, India is practicing a more realistic and more pragmatic foreign policy. So what is realism? What is pragmatism? How it differs from idealism? All of this can be written in 2 to 3 pages for your GS. But in optional, we have to go deeper. Okay, why idealism? What are the different variants? Who are the different thinkers? How it is different from realism? What are the critiques? What realist thinkers say? What is neo-realism? There are sub-content components. How liberalism and realism are overlapping or are in conflict with each other. Now, after studying what we have studied in paper 1 part A, the application part would come here. Unless you understand feminism, you will not understand feminist critique of state or feminist theory of state. Sweden claims to be the first country to follow a feminist foreign policy. So, what makes that country adopt a feminist foreign policy? For that, ideology to jani hogi na, feminism. Now, feminism can be divided into 4 waves. First wave, second wave, third wave and fourth wave. What are the timelines? What were the initial demands? How it evolved from first to fourth wave? What are the critiques? What is the way forward? Now, same thought process will be applied in theory of state. What are the assumptions of feminist scholars and the critiques? And this thing holds true for other ideologies also. So unless we are thorough with the previous one, this part, this is where we shall ideally start with. Unless you know these things. This part, topic number 8. Would not make much sense to go directly into paper 2, part B. Because details of theories are found here. The application would come in paper 2. Very much related to each other. Now, the second part that we see, paper 1, part B. Now see the overlapping with GS that I was talking about. First topic, where do you study it? In modern Indian history. This is what you study in your modern history, right? Indian nationalism, political strategies of Indian freedom struggle, constitutionalism to mass satyagraha, non-cooperation. Almost all these things you study in your modern India. Yes, the B topic, perspective on Indian national movement, this thing you don't study in modern India. But the first part is there in your GS paper 1. Quite a lot of history this is. Okay, so if you study PSIR, it overlaps not only with paper 2, with paper 1 as well. Then you have second topic, making of the Indian Constitution, legacy of British rule. So from paper 2, topic 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7, all of them. This is what you study in your paper 2 polity. So the GS overlapping is quite obvious here. You cannot skip these topics even if you don't study PSIR, because obviously these topics will be there in your GS paper 2. Same thing we see there as well. Salient features, preamble, fundamental rights, DPSPs, amendment procedure, judicial review, basic structure doctrine. This is article 1 to 51. Right, everything is included there. Further you go, principal organs of the UN government, executive, legislature and Supreme Court. So here your president, vice president, prime minister, attorney general, here your parliament and judiciary. All of them will be covered here. Then same thing for state government, panchayat, municipality, significance of 73rd and 74th amendment. Now significance also we study with issues. Why panchayats and municipalities have not been performing to their optimum? What are the bottlenecks that they face? What is the way forward? Second ARC has given a lot of recommendations to make their working better. Niti Aayog has published certain papers on how to improve the working of local bodies. So all these things we can quote here. Obviously it will help you in your general studies. Sixth topic, statutory institutions and commissions. So see, the syllabus says statutory institutions and commission. What is statutory? No, not constitutional. Statutory means which exists because of a statute. Give me an example of a statutory body. NHRC would be one. The Act came in 1993, NHRC Act 1993. So NHRC becomes a statutory organization. Competition Commission, Central Information Commissioner, CIC. That office exists because a law called RTI exists. So institutions which exist, which are backed by a statute, are called statutory organization. Now see, the syllabus interestingly says statutory institution and commission, but starts with, it's a constitutional body, 324, Election Commission. CAG 148, Finance Commission 280, UPSC. So you see, all these constitutional bodies are also clubbed under statutory bodies. Right? Your polity generally ends at this topic, constitutional, non-constitutional body or comparative constitution, panchayat, municipalities, PESA, Schedule 5, Schedule 6. These are the 4-5 modules where the polity would end. So when we end our polity module, we do come across this. But what you study in Election Commission? The articles, the part, the method of appointment, how the people can be removed, who will they resign to, functions, right? Maybe issues and the way forward. This is how we prepare for our general studies. Now in optional, how this will differ? The last two aspects where I mentioned about the issues and the way forward, we have to go in a bit more detailed analysis we have to do there. Okay, for example, in CAG, the things that we study in polity for GS will differ from what we study in optional. We will not talk about what kind of audits CAG does, what kind of audit he misses and which he needs to do mostly in polity. परफॉर्मेंस ऑडिट क्या होती है, इस पर बहुत ज़्यादा बात पॉलिटी में नहीं करते हैं, इधर करते हैं. फॉर्मर सीएजी विनोद राय ने क्या बोला है, बहुत ज़्यादा स्कोप नहीं है पॉलिटी में उसको लिखने का. ओके, बट Vinod Rai, S.Y. Qureshi, Mr. Qureshi was former election commission. He has also written a book on governance. He has also mentioned certain recommendations for CAG. Here we can write these things. So it polishes your stuffs of polity. Not only gives you an extra edge in polity, it also polishes your stuff. Okay, what you do at an elementary level, and that is what is required for general studies. Here you do it a notch above. Okay, so not only your content gets enriched, the understanding on these topics in general studies also becomes very easy. Now, so many of them are there. See, National Commission for, now these are the statutory bodies, National Human Rights Commission, okay, minorities, National Backward Classes Commission, statutory or constitutional? Constitutional, 102nd Amendment, 338B. So, from statutory it became constitutional, and you got a question in your general studies on it, on this particular topic on NCBC. So, see, all this overlapping is quite evident. We'll see the questions also. Federalism, constitutional provision, changing nature. So, in general studies we study it under broadly 3 headings. Center-state relation, I'm excluding the interstate relation part. So, legislative relation, executive relation and financial relation. यही सब देखते हैं ना जीएस में for federal structure. Now here Of late as in for the last 2 years, a new concept seems to have emerged here. There are scholars talking about what they call annihilative federalism. Ever heard of it? What do you think it would be? Annihilative federalism. So scholars who are writing stuff on this topic tend to believe that the government of India, the central government, is engaging into certain practices and norms which have the potential to annihilate the state governments. It's a critique. Okay. So a new variant has been added to annihilative federalism. Now we see types of federalism. In general studies, we don't usually do that. We straight away come to the constitutional provision, why India is a federal state, what are the provisions, what are the constitutional protective measures for this, what has been the court judgments right from S.R. Bomai to other judgments, and we study the constitutional provision, how it is being practiced. How bargaining federalism is different from executive federalism, what is the new variant, this we study in optional. So where your GS starts, something else for optional begins from there. That's why I said your content will get more enriched even for paper 2. Now planning and economic development, Nehruvian and Gandhian perspective. Do you study this topic anywhere in your GS? Green revolution, land reform. Mostly in economics you have these things paper 3 and to an extent in paper 1, post independent consolidation. हालांकि उससे आजकल क्वेश्चन नहीं आ रहा है, but don't forget that in 2013 they asked 5 questions in GS from post independent consolidation. Of late they have been asking 1 or maybe no question from that topic. There is no fixed pattern even for mains. So this thing is present largely in paper 3 and to a small extent in paper 1, post independent consolidation, the topic number 8. Now caste, religion and ethnicity, Indian politics, party system, social movement, this is purely political science. Maybe some part of social issues, paper 1. Some parts, I would not say majorly, but some parts of social issues in paper 1. Human right movement, women movement. Now women movement, again you will lean on feminism here. And we will also be studying the Me Too movement here, where it originated, how it has added more dimensions. Environmental movements, environmentalist movement. So how both this women related movement and environment related movement, what if I tell you they are both related to Marxism? Marxism is the umbrella ideology from, and these environment related, student related, LGBTQ, Me Too, all of them are offshoots of Marxism. The umbrella ideology is Marxism. So how will you understand the recent concepts if you don't know about where the roots are lying? So that is why I said paper 1 part A. The theoretical part has to be mastered. Then you will see the new additions in your subsequent papers, other parts. Now moving on, the overlapping part I think is amply clear. Now comparative politics, again lot of overlapping with paper 1 part A is here. Theoretical aspect of paper 1 which we have seen. First 2 topics mostly theoretical, no scope for any innovation, the questions are fixed. 1 to 2 questions are fixed. Now the remaining topics, again you see study of international relation, it mentions about certain approaches which are related to some ideology or the other. These ideologies we have already covered in part A of paper 1. So same thing, same overlapping is coming here. Now this is where your IR starts from topic number 5. Globalization responses from developed and developing countries. Some parts of globalization you study. in paper 3 and some parts in social issues, paper 1. Okay, so little bit of overlapping is here. Now approaches from topic number 5, the IR starts here. As I said, certain backing, ideological backing to foreign policy, approach to diplomacy is what we see here. Key concept, what is national interest, what is balance of power. Now these terms are making a lot of news of late. The world as we are witnessing is in a state of geopolitical flux. Several things, the existing orders are being ruptured. New world order is emerging. We are witnessing it. It is quite evident around us. So this will be making news for a long time. This will be making news for a long time. And if you see your last year general studies paper on IR, again the 4 questions they have asked, last year mains questions were quite different from what they have been usually asking. Mostly applied questions are there. Now how to solve these papers? You don't have to prepare otherwise for those topics if you have studied it here. Okay. Now related to UN and regionalization of world politics, what are the benefits of these organizations? EU is revolving around a concept called pooled sovereignty. Now why they came up with this concept of pooled sovereignty? What are the advantages out of it? Now then Brexit happened. What is the issue circling around Brexit and how it impacts India? What is more in offer for India after Brexit? And will you stand or will it crumble? We in IR we say that Europe has turned more inward looking. What does that mean? Inward looking as in? See, the term nationalism is not a very favored word in West. Any idea why? Why this term is not a very favored word in West? Reason being that their nationalism became extreme nationalism, chauvinism. My own country, right or wrong. The 2 world wars are inevitably connected to the same thing, extreme nationalism. So that's what I said, that the word nationalism is not a very favored word in West, in Europe. Not in US. US is built around the theme of nationalism. That is what President Trump is trying to revive through his MAGA and everything. But in Europe they said that not a very favorable word, it did not do much good to us, it caused a lot of destruction and war. So let us go for pooled sovereignty. Now with Brexit, this thing tends to be trembling. Okay, Europe is looking inwards. You see the rise of far right happening in Europe. See the president of Holland. See the Prime Minister of Italy. She has won for 2nd consecutive term. See Macron, President Macron in France. From center left, he is turning center left. Okay, these phenomena are amply visible. Okay, these phenomena are amply visible. Now the same question came in your general studies. We'll see it in a while. So in GS for those 4 questions, a non-PSI student might not be inclined to go for such a deep analysis and referring to this stuff and that stuff, but a PSIR student will obviously be doing that. Now, the topic India and the world, where mostly India-centric things we study here, it's a great extension of what we do in general studies. All these things are small bits and pieces you study in your general studies. India's foreign policy, the determinants of foreign policy, on what factors foreign policy is decided upon. Institutions of policy making. It's not MEA alone. Which other institution plays a part in shaping foreign policy? Other than Ministry of External Affairs in India. Any idea? Yes, Ministry of Commerce plays a part. The recent negotiations, more than Mr. Jaishankar, Mr. Piyush Goyal was visible. India, EU and India, USA, right? So Ministry of Commerce plays a part, Ministry of External Affairs and Defense Ministry, yes, correct. More than Home Ministry, Finance Ministry is involved. And Other than ministry, ministry are subset of the government. Any non-state actor that you see? Can you name few? ORF, Rasina Hill you talked about. Abhi to hua hai na. What is Rasina Hill? Rasina dialogue. What is Rasina dialogue? Organized by? So that makes it what is called track 1.5. Rasina dialogue. Keep an eye on the development. If you want to take this optional, at least see who all spoke in Rasina dialogue. What was the theme of Rasina dialogue? Rasina dialogue is an annual event organized, as you rightly and sharply pointed out, by ORF and MEA. What is ORF? Organization Research Foundation. Mr. Sameer Saran is the chairperson. ORF is very close to the Modi government, no doubt about that. You see the names there. I just mentioned the name of the chairperson, Sameer Saran. Mr. Sushant Sareen is there. Sushant Sareen वो आदमी है जो लबासना में तुम लोगों से बात करते हैं IFS प्रोबेशनर्स से. 2 years before he went there, he was delivering some lectures. Of course, he's a scholar and all. He was mighty impressed by IFS probationers, and he said Indian foreign policy is in good hands. So these are the people who work with. Professor Harsh V. Pant is very regular over there. Dhruv Jayashankar, he is chairman of ORF America branch. Okay, wonderful book he has written, Vishwa Shastra. So all these things, ORF also play. Then there is this Vivekanand International Foundation. Yes. So these are the think tanks in the good books of the current government. They also play a significant role in shaping Indian foreign policy. देखो जो गवर्नमेंट नहीं बोल सकती है ना वो ये बोलते हैं. मिस्टर समीर सरन का एक क्लिप बहुत वायरल हुआ था. ही वॉज क्रिटिसाइजिंग द फॉर्मर पीएम ऑफ कनाडा, यू नो, जस्टिन ट्रूडो. So he said last time when he came here and he was quite angry. He matlab Mr. Saran. He said that when we were trying to discuss some important topics, this man was more busy on changing his clothes every second hour. Now, can Dr. Jayashankar say this? Can PM Modi say this? Sameer Saran can say this. Track 1.5, government plus private organization. Track 2, completely private. So how they shape foreign policy, it's a very interesting process, how different stakeholders are involved here. Of course, government takes the final call, the MEA and the PMO. But ingredients come from varied stakeholders. Even intelligence agencies are involved here, I can assure this to you. But the inputs that they will give will not be made public. So here we see this. Now all these institutions of policy making and all we don't study in GS. Here we go into it. Continuity and change. So foreign policy is never a knee-jerk reaction. Okay, people start taking positions in India related to various conflicts happening around the world. देख ही रहा होगा. कोई किसी के फेवर में है, कोई किसी के. Government of India अपने फेवर में. And no, it's not a new stand. It's not a very new stand. The consistency has always been there. Modi government appears to be pro-Israel. It's quite evident. But the previous government was not against Israel. Diplomatic ties with Israel were re-established in 1991. Narasimha Rao. The consulate general was there in Bombay. It was updated to New Delhi. Full embassy. It was Narasimha Rao who opened a full embassy. So consistency is always there. Yes, a ramp up keeps on happening. In due course of time, government decides things which are based on India's national interests. It's never a knee-jerk reaction. Otherwise, no country will take your country seriously. It will happen like USA. Obama comes, does a deal with Iran. Trump comes, destroys that deal in 2018. I'm talking about Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, with USA and Iran inked way back in 2015. Trump destroyed that deal in 2018. See what is happening in 2026. A war has started, and this war is about to get ugly. I hope I'm wrong. Okay, so you study these things in more details over here. Now, contribution to the non-alignment movement. 2024 mains exam, you got a question in your optional that from non-alignment, India has moved towards multi-alignment. So what was non-alignment? What is multi-alignment? How are they different from each other? What are the overlapping areas between non-alignment and multi-alignment. All these things we discuss here. South Asia, SAARC. SAARC past performance. Now the last summit of SAARC happened in 2019, 14 or 15, almost 10 years. 2022 GS exam, Polity IR mains exam, you got a question that is BIMSTEC an alternative to SAARC? What are the similarities and dissimilarities between SAARC and BIMSTEC, and how the formation of latter matlab the one who was formed later. So SAARC is 1986, BIMSTEC is 1997. How BIMSTEC aligns with India's foreign policy. So when we study about SAARC, we study about the relevance of SAARC and why it has come to a dead end right now. Why India has a certain set of issues which India is facing, and how BIMSTEC is seen as an alternative, but officially government never said this. So SAARC can be revived. Quad came long back. Do you know this? I think 2001 or 2. It was shelved. It was revived only in 2017 when Trump became president for the first time. So SAARC can also be revived if and when the government is trying to do that. South Asia as a free trade area. So why this region is important? Look East. Now the syllabus says Look East. The government has announced Act East. Look East came in 1992. Act East came in 2015. How these two are different? What are the common points? How Act East is seen as the next state of Look East? How the mandate of Act East is wider than Look East? These things are in GS also and here also. Of course, more details and more scholarly perspectives are here. Then impediments to regional cooperation. So why South Asia is said to be the least integrated zone of the world? Why EU only remains the only attempt towards a successful attempt towards pool sovereignty? EU is the best example. Even ASEAN is not close. But see, even EU is conflict. So what are the issues with regional blocks? What are the contentions that different countries have? You talk about global south, a more respectable word for third world. So what was the third world thing? पहले तो first and second world क्या था? What was third world? Currently it is viewed as a derogatory term. The appropriate word is global south. Now whether third world or non-aligned or global south, India has taken a leadership position of this particular block. सारी countries वही हैं, mostly African, Asian and Latin American countries. The post-colonial states, countries which became free after Second World War, उनको कहते हैं क्या? Post-colonial state. When colonialism and imperialism were ending, newly independent countries were formed after 1945. So they are collectively now referred as Global South. Now our foreign minister regularly says in any international event you see, he will mention this line, that I am here in the capacity of representative of the Global South. So what makes India go for this claim? Are these countries he is referring to, are they okay with this? India has not criticized Russia. How well it has resonated with Global South. India has not directly criticized Israel. How Global South sees this? Will it not antagonize Global South? So these are the things we discuss here, we study here. Then relations with Africa and Latin America. Indian foreign policy के 3 concentric circles बनाए जाते हैं. Innermost circle is neighbors. Second circle is strategic alliances. Countries like USA, Japan, Australia, so on and so forth. Third circle is rest of the world. So Latin America in the past 7-8 years has been promoted to second circle from the third circle. Why India is focusing on Latin America? What is so unique? What is so demanding about this region? Why India wants to be present here? Of course, resources तो हैं ही, that is what brings us to anywhere, whether Latin America or to Central Asia or to West Asia or anywhere. But more than resources, the strategic partnership, the idea of being with like-minded countries, the idea which PM and EM regularly articulate, the genuine multilateralism. Multilateralism, I have used a word, how it is different from multipolarity, why India emphasizes on genuine multilateralism, which means the existing multilateral institutions are not so genuine. So what are the issues with those institutions? What can be the alternative? Then India and the global centers, the major countries, US, EU, Japan, China and Russia. We study the P5 countries over here. P5 plus Japan and EU. EU, of course, a bloc. So the recent trade deal has happened. Now, the head of EU, until last year, was being critical of India. This year, she comes in the capacity of chief guest, Republic Day, inks a deal, shares wonderful video on her social media accounts. Vibrant India, colorful India, this India, all good adjectives. So what made them switch the gears? Someone in White House is making this shift happen. Not because he's forcing them to be good with India, because of the actions that he's taking. USA under Trump is refusing to be the net security provider of European countries. So Europe is trying to navigate it, the new partners. Okay, now it presents both opportunities and threats for India. So what are the threats? How can these be minimized? What are the opportunities? How it can be consolidated? Everything we study here. Then you see this UN system. So in UN system, apart from studying the structure of this organization, which you also study in your general studies, the more of our content will come from the restructuring and the issues with UNO. Okay, there are more issues. 2023, Foreign Minister said, our Foreign Minister, that UN has become, he used a term, anarchonistic. Now these are strong words. Anarchonistic, close to anarchy. He said that India is not disappointed but angry with delayed reforms. So what made India take such a stand? You see all these conflicts are happening. Where is UN? Where is UN in all these conflicts? Whether in West Asia or in Russia, Ukraine, or with Pakistan or Afghanistan. Do you see it making any significant impact? So yes, there is a question mark on this organization. India is right when it says that we are angry with delayed reforms. BRICS is more represented at P5. P5 में कितनी कंट्रीज हैं? देखो ना कहाँ कहाँ से हैं? US से, European countries and one Asian country. Compare this with BRICS. Europe, Asia, Brazil को कहाँ रखें? South America. So is it not more representative than P5 or even G7? This is what genuine multilateralism, that's why we have organizations like BRICS and SCO, and despite India's issues with China, both countries are working together on these platforms. Okay. Then we talk about this India and the nuclear question, changing perceptions and policy. So India has this no first use policy. Now can India reconsider it? Two components are there in no first use, which we study here. And why India has not inked the NPT? Because India says it creates nuclear haves and have-nots. Okay, there are certain reservations which India has with respect to CTBT and NPT. Now, the current war that is going on, the Iran war, it has largely to do with Iran's nuclear enrichment. Although Iran mostly abided with it. Let me state a fact here. Iran mostly abided with it, but other countries, especially US and Israel, they had their reasons. So what stand India is taking here? We'll see it. Then the recent development in Indian foreign policy is India's position on the recent crisis. Now see, this Syllabus came somewhere around 2011-12. तब भी क्राइसिस थी, अफगानिस्तान में आज भी है. Not much has changed. Afghanistan, Iraq and West Asia. So West Asia is actually a very conflict prone zone. Why this region remains the way it is? You need to know lot of stories and lot of history, and see, any conflict can be understood through history and geography, the maps and what has happened in the past. West Asia can also be explained on broadly these two parameters. Of course, there are other conditions also, other reasons also. So Iraq, why Iraq is there? Because something happened in 2003. USA invaded Iraq. Why it invaded? Because it had certain reasons. What happened after that? We see the decline of USA in West Asia after this. How is it connected to Iraq invasion? So just 1-2 reasons we'll discuss here quickly. Iraq was a buffer state. Buffer state, you understand this term? What is a buffer state? Nepal and Bhutan are buffer states between India and China. Function क्या होता है इनका? They reduce the probability of conflict. See, if not for Bhutan and China, Bhutan and Nepal, India and China border would be continuously stretching from Jammu Kashmir to Arunachal Pradesh. Right? ये दो बीच में आते हैं तो border कम हो जाता है. Chances of confrontation also reduce. ये function है buffer state का. Now, how Iraq is a buffer? Geographically, Iraq separates the Sunni Arab monarchs from Shia theocratic Iran. ईरान के 3 एनिमीज हैं, यूएस, इजराइल, अरब्स. जानो इसके बारे में, पढ़ो. 2 ही नहीं है, 3 हैं. सो इफ इंडिया इज नॉट critical of what is happening in Iran, because we don't want to lose the 3 pillars. We are very close to Arabs, no doubt about that, especially UAE and Saudi. We are, अभी तो अमेरिका से दोबारा से ठीक हुई है चीज़ें, almost, after the FTA has been finalized. We are on the verge of signing it. And with Israel, our ties have been good since 1991. So you cannot antagonize these 3 entities for one Iran. Okay. जो क्रिटिसाइज करने वाले 2 ही रीजन बोलते हैं, तीसरा नहीं बताते हैं. ये पैटर्न भी देखना. दिस सब्जेक्ट विल एनरिच यू विथ the ability to comprehend the complex world that we live in. Okay, you will find ample reasons. So Iraq was a buffer state between Iran and Arabs. Now, after the fall of Saddam Hussein, which happened after American invasion, Iraq has fallen prey to parties which are close to Iran. It has become an Iranian proxy. So the Arabs see it, what? That Iran is coming close to them. Whom they do blame this for? The USA. Why did you invade? There was nothing which Saddam was doing. Iraq after Saddam has become more dangerous for Arabs. Now what stand India is taking here? How are we maneuvering? एक term use होता है Excel diplomacy. Marks कब आते हैं when you use these words in your answers? India's position in West Asia is like pursuing Excel diplomacy. Excel, you see, it's a fragile thing. If you drop an egg, it will fall. So you have to hold it cautiously. India seems to be offering conflicting options on the same table in West Asia. We are reaching out to Israel. We are reaching out to Palestine. We send aid to Palestine. We vote for a ceasefire. When Israel attacked Bahrain last year, India criticized it without naming Israel. How long will this go on? How long will you not be taking positions? We have good ties with Saudis and Emiratis, UAE, and good ties with Iran also. Iran से बहुत बुरे नहीं है. We have friends with Iran. Our ship is coming through Hormuz. I hope you know this. Chinese ship is coming, Indian ship is coming, Russian ship is coming. Only few countries have been given this facility. Chabahar port, India has invested $8 billion. More than that infrastructure, it is our connectivity to Afghanistan without Pakistan and to Central Asia. Energy rich region it is. INSTC. Okay, it's an alternative to BRI. Still not being fully functional because of sanctions on Iran and now sanctions on Russia also. West Asia crisis and all these things happening, including the entire region. यहाँ पर थोड़ा बहुत reference आएगा rise of Islamic State also. Again linked with the fall of Saddam Hussein. Okay. So all these things we'll see, and growing relations with US and Israel. So after 1991, India adjusted its position on Israel. 1956, we closed the embassy because Suez Canal was nationalized by Egypt. Britain, France and Israel attacked Egypt. India closed the diplomatic ties with Israel. Reopened fully in 1991, Narasimha Rao, de-hyphenation of foreign policy. Okay, ever since it has been there, upward trajectory. USA also matters. With no other country, India has 7 military ties. Not with France, not with Russia, not with Israel, only with US. Okay, France I am talking about. Interview में अभी खूब सारे question पूछे गए लोगों से. Aspirants with their first choice as IFS were asked, who is India's best friend? Don't say Israel, don't say Russia. France. If you avoid these two countries, if you want answers other than Israel and Russia, it is France. Hudson Institution says this. It's a premium American think tank. Now, vision of a new world order, the topic that is here. Now, what do we call a new world order? The existing world order that we see as of today is a result of things that happened after the Second World War. We call it transatlantic or Anglo-Saxon world order. Okay, led by USA. USA, and there is a term we use here, satellite state or vassal states of USA, the allies of USA. Now this world order currently is crumbling. Okay, I mentioned a world multilateralism, USA ruling through institutions, not by sending armies. Which institutions? The World Bank, the IMF, the WTO. World Bank will give you loan if you fulfill the criteria of good governance. Now who decides what is good governance? Now you see USA withdrawing from institutions, UNESCO, WHO, not signing the climate deals. So the world order is crumbling. A new world order is emerging. The next superpower is knocking. So world might fall into what we call two traps, which we study in optional, not in GS, the Kindleberger trap and the Thucydides trap. Now what are these traps? When you study, you will know about it. What India needs to do here? What are the options? Which side India should choose? Its own side. At times, not taking a stand is also a stand. So the elaborate discussions that we do, the level of depth that you have to go in your optional, it will give you a lot of advantage in your other compulsory papers. See, GS का कोई option नहीं हो तो पढ़ना ही पढ़ना है. So whichever optional you study, you cannot avoid paper 2. This optional, paper 2 becomes a subset. Just a fact I'm explaining. You can see it for yourself. Syllabus is freely available. In paper 2, other than few topics of governance, जैसे social audit है, citizen charter है, good governance, e-governance, m-governance, इन चीज़ों को अगर छोड़ दो, everything else is here. Okay, few topics of governance, उनको अगर छोड़ दो, तो all the topics in GS paper 2, both polity and IR, is already included in your optional. Now see this, the questions. This is what your GS optional 2 talks about, GS paper 2 talks about, right? Historical underpinning. So bits and pieces, all these see, same statutory, regulatory, quasi-judicial bodies. RPA is not there, but elections are there. Representation of People Act is in your GS, not in your optional, but Election Commission is there. So with Election Commission and electoral reform, some element of RPA also. All these topics are already there, mostly in your PSIR optional. Except for all these last part which I mentioned about governance, welfare schemes, development process and all. Now similarly, the last four. This is your IR. India and neighbors, two important international institutions. So neighbors, fixed neighbors, 9 if you add Maldives and Afghanistan. Bilateral mean India and some other country. Regional, SAARC, BIMSTEC, ASEAN. Global groupings, UN. The other emerging ones, even BRICS and SCO and Quad can come there. So same topics with more detailed, more scholarly perspective, more depth we study in your means optional paper. So almost 2/3 of paper 2 is a subset of optional PSIR. Right in front of you, this is. The overlapping is quite evident here. Now see, this is your paper 2 last year of polity, GS. Okay, I may discount this. Let us not include RPA. Even if we avoid RPA, can we take this question in our PSIR or not? Administrative tribunals compared, because judiciary, Supreme Court, you have to study there. Courts generally don't like tribunals. Do you know this? Conventionally, judiciary is not very fond of tribunal. They say they don't know the law. People in tribunal, the experts say, we know the content. We are the subject matter experts. So this confrontation does happen in tribunal. We have this phrase called tribunalization of justice. So second question can be covered through optional itself. See this one, President power to pardon in India and in USA. Comparative constitution. वहाँ से ही आ रहा है. Again, directly we don't study comparative constitution, but one part, the president power to pardon, is very much a part of Union executive. Then something similar came in your PSIR also, related to Jammu and Kashmir. Here it talks about powers and functions of assembly post abrogation of 370. In PSIR it was more about the political landscape of Jammu and Kashmir. Now these topics we don't study in isolation, they are related to each other. That's why I said that you will get a lot of value addition for your general studies topic by studying this optional. Attorney General, part of Union Executive, Government of India's advocate. You have to study about Attorney General in Union Executive in optional also. Now women and social complements in advancing empowerment and gender equity, explain. Women's role, it is actually social capital. So the empowerment part, the Me Too and all the social movements and everything will give you good content for this. E-governance, as I said, is not there. The governance part we can skip. Now civil society. Again, civil society is not something we see here. But India-Africa digital partnership. Now see what a specific question has been asked. One, it is Africa. So remember in PSIR there was a separate topic in your syllabus, India, Africa and Latin America. And one specific thing has been asked here, digital partnership. Now why this question has come? Because since 2020, with the onset of COVID, a lot of African countries have reached out to India for developing what is called DPI, Digital Public Infrastructure. They are mighty impressed by our UPI and Jan Dhan and everything. So agreements have happened with 3 or 4 African countries. Now how this is related to mutual respect? Ever wondered how digital payments can be correlated with mutual respect and co-development? What happens when transactions happen mostly online? The middlemen are weeded out. Right? The targeted beneficiary receives the intended benefit. So that is what makes it more inclusive. Now see this thing. This is your IR. Waning of globalization. Again, why waning of globalization? We were told globalization is inevitable. So the thing that I talked about post-Brexit, what has happened? Europe is turning more inwards. The rise of new right is happening. Right-wing parties are flooding Europe. You see Britain also. Britain may have a Labour government, but Conservatives lost because another right-wing party has split their votes. The data is in front of us. Okay, so waning of globalization, because globalization talks about more connectivity and interdependence. Sovereign nationalism, same thing. How and why it is happening. So there are ample reasons for it. Now, in IR, you may not have a lot of discussion around this topic. Okay, you may not have a lot of discussion, but here we in optional we quote likes of Joseph Stiglitz. He has written a wonderful book, Globalization and Its Discontent. He is a Nobel laureate in economics. He has punctured the claims of globalization. Okay, so lot of firepower you get from your optional. Now see this. Constitutional morality has made it to your exam 2 to 3 times. Why? Because judges, while writing the judgments, are using this term. Now in GS, what we see about it, we see about where it came from. History of Greece, written by George Groth, which mentions about the complexities of a written constitution. He is a British historian. Dr. Ambedkar referred to this term in Constituent Assembly debate. Our Supreme Court has repeatedly referred to these judgments. Which judgments I am talking about? Shaira Bano, abolition of triple talaq, Sabrimala, and Joseph Sain. Heart of these cases. By the way, Sabrimala ki hearing dobara se shuru hone wali hai. Keep an eye on it for both your optional and for your GS. So the debate, the jurisprudence about constitutional morality. In GS, we don't see, we only quote the judgment and where this term came from, what Dr. Ambedkar said during the Constituent Assembly debate. In optional, we see where this can be a ground for striking down statutes. You understand this? Can Supreme Court invoke constitutional morality and rule down an amendment? Former Attorney General Mr. K.K. Venugopal, he told Supreme Court that will you use this to widen judicial review? Supreme Court said, what makes you say this? He said, because of the tendency that I am observing. So, can constitutional morality be a ground for striking down amendments and statutes? ये GS में नहीं आएगा, यहाँ पर आ जाएगा. It gives you an edge on these topics. Now see this. Indian Constitution has conferred amending power. So this talks about what? The limitation on amending power, Article 368. Two things, procedural and substantive. Quite simple question. This you can do without PSIR, but then this is a part of our PSC. How many questions can be answered? That is what I'm trying to tell you here. Center-state financial relations. Federalism, I have already told you. A new term has been coined, annihilative federalism. So, amidst all these things, and there are more, except for social justice, which is there in your paper 3, this part, governance part. Few topics of governance, other than those topics, entire paper 2 is a subset. Okay? Now, what are the challenges with this subject? Till now, any question you have, any doubt you have, I have been going for a monologue. This is not how my classes happen, but if you have a doubt, please feel free to ask anything related to whatever we have discussed till now for your optional. कुछ स्पष्ट हुआ? नहीं? हो गया? Any doubt? No doubt. So, what are the challenges with this subject? Very dynamic. Mathematics might not be dynamic. Will you take that? Yes, dynamic nature of this subject is an issue, and more than dynamic nature, huge syllabus. The contemporary aspect adds to this. The contemporary aspect of, as we said, the dynamic nature of this subject adds to your worries, because on one hand the syllabus is huge. Let us be realistic here. Syllabus छोटा तो नहीं है, plus dynamic है. Then lot of reference material is here. Okay, and if you try to dig out these reference material by yourself, I can mention you all the sources, which think tank, which journals you can subscribe to. There is a wonderful magazine coming. If you want to study this, please read this, India's World. Happy Mon Jacob and C. Raja Mohan are the editors. Then ORF comes up with compilation. There is Project Syndicate. There are debates on Sunset TV. Okay. Lot of things I can refer to. Watch certain lectures. Whenever Professor John Mersheimer speaks, do note it. Jeffrey Sachs speak, do note it. And lot of academics I can list both India and abroad. They have their own Substack where they write these things. You can subscribe. But if you try to do it on your own, it will be quite tough for you. See, it's not that you cannot do it, but they don't write for your exam. Please understand. They don't write for your exam. They write on topics. You have to skim out of it. You have to filter out the content relevant for you. On your own, it will be a risk. So first, you need to know exactly which line and which words and which paragraphs are important. This may take some time. It will not happen right now. Plus, your general studies is there. So you will not get extra time. So that's why doing it alone will be a risk. Now, interest and wide scope. This is one thing I often warn about students in class, that don't take too much interest in this subject. ये हो जाता है थोड़ा बहुत IR ideology और बाकी चीज़ें पढ़ के people think that now we know lot of things. They start taking positions, and more than taking positions, they engage into meaningless discussions and debates. Avoid that, both offline and online. मत पढ़ो, Reddit कुछ मत करो. हो गया, आप तो आ गए क्लास में, अब क्या? Okay. So any kind of meaningless discussion will drain you out, both offline and online. कुछ combined study वटी पता नहीं क्या. If it is benefiting, go for it. If not, don't flaunt it that you know about. Who will get impressed? And if someone gets impressed, how it will benefit you in your exam? So avoid this. ज़्यादा discussion नहीं करना है. This subject will equip you, no doubt about that. Plus, see, our syllabus is fixed. Syllabus is fixed, so endlessly you cannot learn to stop at a satisfactory level. Don't put all your efforts towards few topics in your optional or even for that matter general studies. Now the subject is such, it's a very interesting subject, I can assure this to you. If someone says PSIR is boring, that let me say this at the risk of sounding non-diplomatic, then you are learning it from a wrong teacher. अगर PSIR boring है तो फिर interesting क्या है? Okay, so this subject is very interesting, but don't take lot of interest. Don't start reading all the books that you come across. Someone refers a book, you start reading that. You may become an expert later on in your life, but you will not be able to crack this exam. This I can assure you. Finally, scope of deviation. Why I am saying scope of deviation? It is related to the previous point. Deviation, you tend to do things which are counterproductive for this exam. Okay. We have to take an objective stand. Whether you take this optional or not, any optional you take, or GS to padhte hi ho na. So please remember this. I am telling you something you must remember until you are selected. Learn to take an objective stand. We need to figure out, are we capable of it or not? Objective stand means, yes, there will be issues, there will be certain benefits, merits and demerits of an issue. Now you don't have to demonize anything here, let alone the government. So that's why I said that you don't have the liberty of the Hindu. Someone wrote in Indian Express after abrogation of Article 370, Pratap Bhanu Mehta. I quote him in PSIR. But I cannot quote this line which I am about to say. ये मैं बताता हूँ कि क्या नहीं लिखना है इस एग्जाम में उनके कोट को यूज करते हुए. He said India wants to Indianize Kashmir, it will end up Kashmirizing India. The story of blood and betrayal, पता नहीं क्या क्या. वो CSAT में आ जाएगा, टफ इंग्लिश थी. PSR में नहीं लिख सकते उसको. Can an aspirant write this line? You tell me. कश्मीर पर क्वेश्चन GS में भी आया है 25 में और PSR में भी आया. नाउ मैं डेयर देता हूं किसी एस्पिरेंट को ये लाइन लिख के दिखा दो. यू कैन नॉट. दिस इज एंटी स्टेट, दिस इज नॉट एंटी गवर्नमेंट. क्रिटिसाइज योर गवर्नमेंट बट ऑन पॉलिसी, नॉट ऑन दी फॉरगेट आइडियोलॉजी, नॉट ऑन दी इंटेंट. सरकार की नियत पर क्वेश्चन मत करो, पॉलिसी पर करो. जो क्वेश्चन आर सच क्रिटिकली एनालाइज. किसी भी गवर्नमेंट की नियत नहीं. मैं तो बार बार बोलता हूं, नेहरू जी से मोदी जी तक सब अच्छे थे. गलतियां हुई हैं. नेहरू जी डिड, ये फैक्ट है कि नेहरू जी इनवाइटेड चाइना टू बी अ पार्ट ऑफ यूएन एज लेट एज 1960. वी हैव रिटन रिकॉर्ड्स ऑफ व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. अब इस पे नेहरू जी को डिमिनाइज करना कि नहीं चाइना को क्यों, अब इसका आंसर ध्रुव जयशंकर ने अपनी बुक में दिया है. ब्यूटिफुल बुक ही हैज रिटन, विश्व शास्त्र. ध्रुव जयशंकर के बारे में बताया ना, डायरेक्टर ORF and he is son of Dr. S. Jaishankar. So other than being the son of his dad, he is also director of ORF and a scholar on international relation. So he writes in his book that India was analyzing, India was thinking on the line that if China joins UNO, it will be a part of international organization, it will behave in a more nuanced way. चाइना के चाल चलन में थोड़ा अच्छा फर्क पड़ेगा. If China joins UNO, it will act in a more orderly way. That is why India was saying China should be a part of UN. Now this may be true for India, this calculation which India made. Now see, I have the benefit of retrospection. I can go back and say, no, this was wrong on your part. But trust me, when any PM is taking decision, he is having his own constraints. He has his advisors, he has his own geopolitical circumstances and his own vision. And everyone's vision is limited. We are normal mortals. Are you getting it? तो yes, इंडिया की फॉरेन पॉलिसी का जो पहला स्टेप है 1947 to 1962, 64, इसको हम कहते हैं era of positive non-alignment. Did make some mistakes, but the way we articulate about it will determine how much marks we get. See, truth lies somewhere in between. Avoid extremes. So don't fall into that pit. Don't try to be the final word on everything. Okay, the state might change the stance. Why are you so committed to a particular stand? Go for policy criticism. Never question the intent. Okay? Otherwise, scope of deviation is huge. You can write your blog. You can do endless discussions. You will get lot of likes and shares. You will not crack the exam if you engage into it. Search for perfection is an illusion. No one is perfect. So please let us stop at a satisfactory level. 50% पे तो rank 1 आ जाता है. In your exam, 50 to 52% is what rank 1 gets. Out of 1750 mains and 275 interview marks, this is what the fact is. So why are you trying to be perfect? You will not get 15 out of 15 or 20 out of 20. The idea is to attempt all questions. And if you want that one perfect answer, it will not come in test, it will not come in answer writing, it will not come in your mains. So the more I was talking to one of the rankers, 132 Rishabh, he was saying that I used to write 2 tests every day. So when I am writing 2 tests, I am not in that zone where I will think lot on one question or 2 questions. my entire focus was on finishing both these tests with all the 20 questions attended from both tests. And that helped me. Of course, he did all these things after he did his, did prepare his note, attended all his classes, sectional test करने के बाद ये full length test की बात हो रही है. Okay. So that is all you have to do here. Nothing more. It's a very old school exam, as I often say. No room for innovation and disruption and this. No, no, no. It's an old school exam. It tests you on the obvious. Okay. Go for authentic sources. Authentic sources are official sources. MEA is your go-to website, Ministry of External Affairs. वहां जाया करो. PIB के प्रेशर्स देखो, क्वेश्चन आवर देखो, पार्लियामेंट के 2 क्वेश्चन तो क्वेश्चन आवर से आए हैं तुम्हारे. इन GS it happened. आसियान बिम्स्टेक और सार्क वाला क्वेश्चन आवर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट में 1 साल पहले मिनिस्टर जी से पूछा गया था. 2024 मेंस एग्जाम इन IR paper 2 they asked a question on INSTC Central Asia. Same question was asked to minister during the question hour. Same thing was asked. So question hour और 0 hour PRS का डेटा हमें बता रहा है कि 60% time is wasted. Go to PRS website. Read what Mr. Chakshu Roy writes. He is the chairman of PRS. I can give you a list of people. Read Happy Monjacob. Read Professor Harsh P. Pant. Okay, these people make sense. Quote them in your exam. So go for official sources. Not what a person is saying on a reel or a short. सब पे मत जाओ. You don't know with what authority that person is speaking. Okay, accountability के बिना बात नहीं करेंगे, हवा हवाई बात नहीं करेंगे. That's all you have to do. Any doubt we have? So my final remarks, it is a very interesting subject. Worth studying, yes, no doubt. Initially, as I have seen, I have been teaching for past 10 years for this exam. And what I have seen is people from non-PSIR background initially find it tough. Because they are like so much of facts and terms and concepts, and I have been bombarded with this. How do I remember this? I say revise. My only question is, have you understood? They are like, yes, but how do we recall it in the exam? I said, when you revise it. And in paper 1 part A, there are certain terms which people have not known in their life. Now initially 5-10 classes, they feel like, do they belong here? कार्ल मार्क्स ने कहा है एलिनेशन होता है मजदूर को प्रोडक्ट से, कैपिटलिज्म से, राइट? तो दे आल्सो डेवलप अ सेंस ऑफ एनिलेशन. So they reach out to us, we assure them that this will not happen if you keep on revising, and these things will be repeated in paper 2. Same theories will, now there you will feel comfortable. So they, ये हर बार हुआ है, हर साल वो बोलते हैं हाँ सर अब ठीक है, शुरू में दिक्कत हुई थी अब नहीं हो रही है. And even if you have PSIR background, yes ma'am, any doubt? So even if you have PSIR background, then also in your graduation, what have you studied? Let us be honest. Not much. College exam is quite different. Forget syllabus, even the questions are fixed. 10 साल से वही 10 क्वेश्चन तो आ रहे हैं. First one is compulsory. Syllabus has not been updated. Applied questions are not so much asked. Plus, you can write to your heart's content. People from humanities. Here you have to answer within 150 to 50 words. So the first thing people from DU tell me, this is our first paragraph. And you are asking us to wind the answer in 250 words. ये तो अपना पहला paragraph होता है. So choose your words carefully then. No need for beating around the bush. Add more dimensions. Again, these things will come through practice. That's why I said you have not been trained for this exam. Your university exams are quite different. So irrespective of your background, yes, everyone will have some initial issues. Let us be honest. Consistently, we can weed out these issues very easily and very effectively. Any queries on your part? Otherwise, I'll call it a day. Yes. Just a moment. Yes, he raised his hand first. At least that's what I saw. You yourself answered it. He has a question that it is too much PSIR is current related. So what to pick and what not to pick, right? Which situation? Middle East. First of all, let us call it West Asia. Our professors, our academics call it West Asia. Americans use the term Middle East. तो पहले तो यहाँ से शुरू करते हैं. It is West Asia for us. But nomenclature will not matter. But if you write Middle East, someone checking their answer might get offended. उनको समुद्रगुप्ता को इंडियन नेपोलियन बोलने पे ऑफेंड नहीं होगा. उनको मैकियावेली को चाणक्य को इंडियन मैकियावेली बोलने पर ऑफेंड नहीं होगा. बट मिडिल ईस्ट को वेस्ट एशिया लिख दोगे हो जाएंगे. ये मैंने देखा है. सो बॉल बाय बॉल कमेंट्री नहीं करनी है. यू योरसेल्फ सेड दिस. सो ऑल बॉल बाय बॉल कमेंट्रीज यू हैव नॉट टू डू. ओके, व्हाट यू हैव टू, जैसे यूएस ने आज 2 स्टील्थ फाइटर भेजे हैं, कुछ नहीं नोट करना है. ओके, 2 B-2 बॉम्बर्स भेजे हैं. कंक्लूजन क्या है? वॉर इज स्ट्रेचिंग. एंड यूएस इनिशियल कंसर्न्स, इनिशियल कैलकुलेशन वर नॉट अप टू द मार्क. दैट्स व्हाई आज हुआ है ना, इन्होंने भेजा है, इसलिए मैं बता रहा हूं. ओके, इंडिया ने अभी एक बहरीन 2 days बैक बहरीन ब्रॉट अ रेजोल्यूशन कंडेमनिंग ईरान ब्लॉकिंग द हॉर्मुज एंड ईरान्स अटैक ऑन अरब कंट्रीज. India co-sponsored this resolution in UN. 135 countries signed it. Now, content that you will see around is something like that there will be no bullying in Strait of Hormuz. International law and order will prevail. Iran is the one who is bullying. No, it started from USA. If you want to talk about bullying, you talk about USA. Iran तो बात कर रहा था. Iran held 3 rounds of talk. 2 in Geneva, 1 in Muscat. It was US which started the bombing. Okay, so go with the broader themes. Negotiations, FTA with EU has happened. FTA with USA final हो चुका है. Negotiations have closed. Now, what all type of negotiations happened? This you need not know. किसने क्या बोला वो नहीं जानना है. Final क्या है उस पर जाते हैं. Ball by ball commentary नहीं करनी है. सरकार नहीं करती है काम. ओके, आप भी मत करो. गो विद द फाइनल कंक्लूजन. यस, यू आर इंटरेस्टेड इन द रीजन, यू आर इंटरेस्टेड इन व्हाट इज हैपनिंग बिकॉज दिस इज योर सब्जेक्ट. कीप एन आई ऑन दीज डेवलपमेंट्स. कीप एन आई ऑन दीज डेवलपमेंट्स. दैट्स इट. इंडिया की महासागर डॉक्ट्रिन है. अब एक शिप को ईरान के इंडियन ओशन में उड़ा दिया. इंडियाज says that I am the net security provider in Indian Ocean region. Now there is a question mark on this statement. So let us see what we imply by this statement. Net security provider in Indian Ocean region does not mean कि सब किसी की चौकीदारी करेंगे, सबको घर छोड़ कर आएंगे. And it is not only about sovereign threats, it's also about natural disasters that happen in Indian Ocean region. India reaches out to these countries through HADR, through Mahasagar, earlier it was Sagar doctrine. तो एक छोटे से कम, देखो उनको भी तो कंटेंट बनाना है ना. ओके, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द थिंग्स दैट यू सी ऑन सोशल मीडिया एंड अबाउट न्यूज चैनल्स एंड न्यूज पेपर्स. प्रिंट मीडिया इज स्टिल मोर फॉर योर एग्जाम, ज़्यादा अच्छा है मेरे हिसाब से. इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया पे तो कुछ भी चलता है. इन सब में मत पढ़ो, ठीक है. अगर क्वेश्चन मार्क हो रहा है तो इंडिया का जो रिस्पॉन्स है उसको देख लेते हैं. एंड whether if it merits a response. सरकार हर चीज पे रिएक्ट नहीं करती है. सरकार को रील नहीं बनानी है हर दिन 3. ओके, वो काम तो जिनका है वो कर ही रहे ना. You don't get carried away. That's why I said only official sources. Ball by ball commentary का स्कोप नहीं है. इन्फेरेंस पे आएंगे. You will learn these things. Just start practicing it. हफ्ते 10 दिन में समझ में आ जाएगी चीजें. Yes. I'm not the only one who will be teaching you this paper. There are other faculties with me. This was a query or a caution? Okay. Yes. Repeat. India's what? Hmm. 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 I got your question. So her question is that when such. I'm coming to it. For any issues, you have picked a specific content of West Asia. There are other conflicts also. उस पे भी तो बात करो. Russia will feel left out. Okay. So Russia-Ukraine conflict. Now, what all you have to prepare here, right? Listen carefully. Russia-Ukraine conflict, or for that matter, West Asia conflict. अभी 2-3 और conflict होने वाले हैं. The situation on Durand line is going to get worse. What is Durand line? पाकिस्तान अफगानिस्तान बॉर्डर. वहाँ भी आतिशबाजियाँ होने वाली हैं. तालिबान ने बोला है अगर यहाँ पे बैरिकेडिंग की वी आर कमिंग फॉर यू. सो पाकिस्तान अफगानिस्तान डूरंड लाइन की बात करते हैं, राइट? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तालिबान 1.0 1990s 100% बैक्ड बाय पाकिस्तान. अब क्या हो गया है? वाई तालिबान एंड पाकिस्तान डोंट सी आई टू आई? रीजंस वी हैव टू नो. What has been India's approach in Afghanistan before Taliban and after Taliban? उसके पहले monarchy थी. Monarchs were backed by Soviets. Communist backed monarchs were there. Then comes Taliban. मुजाहिद कैसे आए, लादेन कैसे आया, तालिबान और अलकायदा कैसे आए, ये सब पढ़ लेंगे यहाँ पर, ठीक है? ये तो देखना ही है. Then what was India's stand? India used to see Afghanistan as an equal partner. After Taliban came, it tried to maintain some distance, although Taliban never directly went against India's interest. Even during Kandahar hijack, I'm again stating a fact, Kandahar hijack पता है सबको? Plane hijack, Taliban was offering a midway. It was Pakistan which spoiled it. Okay, so it Taliban का जो अहमियत है, फर्स्ट वाले की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, he reached out to our government in Delhi in 90s. Pakistan was quite shocked about it. So Taliban never took a very drastic stand against India, even in their earliest avatar. Now then, Taliban के against में Endurika freedom करता है USA. War against terror after the 9/11 attack happened. 20 years NATO forces remained there. 2021 they withdrew. Within 1 year Taliban 2.0. Why? इतना जल्दी क्या कैसे आ गए? 20 साल US ने क्या किया? We need to know these reasons. Now what is India's stand? Again हमारे फॉरेन मिनिस्टर ने पार्लियामेंट में 3 बातें बताई हैं इस पर. देखो मैं क्या बार बार समझो इस चीज़ को, आई एम एम्फेसाइजिंग ऑन ऑफिशियल सोर्सेस. मिनिस्टर स्पीकिंग इन पार्लियामेंट, इससे ज़्यादा ऑथेंटिक क्या होगा? गलत बोलेंगे उनके अगेंस्ट प्रिविलेज मोशन आ जाएगा, राइट? मिनिस्टर स्पीकिंग इन हाउस स्पीक्स विथ लॉट ऑफ ऑथोरिटी एंड लॉट ऑफ क्रेडिबिलिटी along with accountability exercised by the legislature, right? So 3 things he has stated in the parliament, we can write that. What has been India's stand? Now why India is reaching out to, इस साल एम्बेसी खुलने वाली है दिल्ली में, लिख लो इस बात को. तालिबान अपॉइंटेड एम्बेसडर नई दिल्ली आएंगे, हमारे एम्बेसडर काबुल जाएंगे. नाउ यू माइट आउटरेज ऑन दिस बिकॉज तालिबान आर बैड पीपल. तो ये एथिक्स थोड़ी पढ़ाता हूं मैं. पेपर 4 की चीजें PSIR में नहीं लाएंगे. IR इन सबसे ऊपर है. जियो पॉलिटिक्स इज ओनली अबाउट आवर ओन सेल्फिश नेशनल इंटरेस्ट. प्रैग्मेटिक. We will do what benefits us. Morality, ethics, not thankfully part of geopolitics. Because these things are subjective. What is moral to me might be immoral to you, and vice versa. But what is legal for all of us. What is illegal for all of us. There is no exception here. So why India is reaching out? We need to know that. ज़्यादा problem पाकिस्तान से है कि तालिबान से? You know the answer. So if a situation is developing on Durand line, why not benefit out of it? Why not use Afghanistan to reach out to Central Asia and to Iran? Okay, why not isolate Pakistan from its western borders? All the more India needs to engage. This Taliban has more acceptability than its first avatar. Russian embassy is there, China is reaching out, Qatar has reached out, Iran has an embassy, Central Asian countries are there. We will yield space to other countries if we are not there. We don't want that. India is the 4th largest donor in Afghanistan for the past 20 years. We will lose everything if we are not there. And yes, atrocious as it may be, I agree here. Atrocious Taliban is, it has brought new laws, you know about those laws. Husbands can beat their wife, not break their bones. It is legal in Afghanistan, you know this. They have banned women from schools and colleges. All the more India is required. The countries which I mentioned, who have ties with Afghanistan, who will tell them these things? Russia ko matlab hai. China will say ki allow your women, or Iran will say, the new Ayatollah will say. Only India can raise these concerns. So all the more India is required there. कुछ तो बात हो ढंग की जिससे तालिबान थोड़ा इंडियन लाइन को टो करे. 2022 हमारा जो सेंटर है ना कटवरिया सराय IFS वाला सुषमा स्वराज इंस्टीट्यूशन, यू नो दिस, फॉरेन जहाँ पर IFS की ट्रेनिंग होती है. सो इंडिया ट्रेन्स diplomats from many countries, African countries are there, Asian countries. Taliban said, I also want to come. It was a certificate 3 or 4 week course. So India was like, okay, come. So Taliban came. If Taliban is learning diplomacy, good. And if India is teaching them, better. So reach out तो करना पड़ेगा ना. तालिबान से बात, ये सारे इश्यूज हैं. किसी भी इशू को इंडियन पर्सपेक्टिव से देखने की आदत डालो. कंसर्न्स हैं, बट डिप्लोमेसी इज अ लॉन्ग टर्म गेम. इट्स अ 52D चेस. ये 20 ओवर का क्रिकेट मैच नहीं चल रहा है. ये मैराथन है, 100 मीटर रेस नहीं है. इट्स लाइक योर UPSC, लॉन्ग गेम. लॉन्ग टर्म बेनिफिट्स शुड नॉट बी कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड फॉर शॉर्ट टर्म गेन्स. मोरल ग्रैंड स्टैंडिंग नहीं लेनी होती है, इतना बस याद रखना. मोरल ग्रैंड स्टैंडिंग लोगे तो किससे बात करोगे? चाइना इज स्टैटिस्टिकली स्पीकिंग, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉमर्स टेल्स अस $129 billion bilateral trade happened between China and India last year, last fiscal year. Now what a benevolent regime China has, we all know it. कितने प्यारे लोग हैं, कैसे अपने लोगों को ट्रीट करते हैं. Don't you know this? Unity of command is there. No federalism, no secularism, no rights, duties, do and die. Don't ask why. चाइना क्या थ्रेट अपने लोगों को नहीं देता है? चाइना क्या atrocious नहीं है? चाइना में कौन से राइट्स हैं किसी के? इफ ईरान में अयतोल्ला गलत करें तो अरब्स में कौन सा सही हो रहा है? ट्राई स्पीकिंग वन वर्ड अगेंस्ट MBS इन सऊदी अरेबिया, सी व्हाट हैपेंस टू यू. कहां डिसअपियर हो जाओगे? वी कैन नॉट force them to act. India does not believe in export of ideology. We prefer engaging with democracies, but we will engage with the government of the day. अगर कहीं पर see what Ayatollah, I am no fan of Ayatollah, let me give a disclaimer, but what USA is doing is not right. If Ali Khamenei was going for crackdown against its people, UNSC will take a call, USA will not take a call. When Bush invaded Iraq in 2003, Bush went to UNSC. Of course, he did not get a vote, but that was also an illegal war. You get consent. यही तो crumbling of global order क्यों हो रहा है? Because आप global institutions को undermine करते हो. Crumbling of global order started when Bush invaded Iraq. Bush was USA president in 2003, 20th of March, without a UNSC consent. He should have made effort to get the consent from UNSC. If you are not getting it, then don't attack this country. What is the precedent that you are setting? And you are calling Russia. See, look in your own zone what you have done. So this grandstanding and all does not happen. Yes, if Iran was not doing well, a UNSC resolution was required. Then Bush went to Congress. Congress is American Parliament. Trump did not even go to Congress. So this war internationally or even nationally has no backing. You cannot go for regime change by sending your troops. UNSC peacekeeping troops should be deployed there. Other countries should be there. Alone you cannot do that. You want to install a puppet government, you will not be able to do that. जब तक ग्राउंड ट्रूप्स नहीं उतारेंगे ये जीत नहीं पाएंगे. मिसाइल से regime change नहीं होगा. The next Ayatollah is coming and he is already there. People of Iran who had problems with their supreme leader are now firmly with the state of Iran. अमेरिका ने अटैक करके सबको एक कर दिया है. और ग्राउंड ट्रूप उतारने का मतलब है डेथ वारंट. सी द ज्योग्राफी ऑफ ईरान, यू विल नो दैट. दिस इज द ओनली कंट्री विच शेयर्स बॉर्डर विथ पर्शियन गल्फ एंड कैस्पियन सी. कैस्पियन सी में अजरोफ माउंटेन है. ये सब देखो, ये सब मैप्स पे जाओ. मैंने क्या बोला, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट के लिए हिस्ट्री एंड ज्योग्राफी इज रिक्वायर्ड. नहीं लड़ पाओगे उनसे. इराक में नहीं जीत पाए, अफगानिस्तान में नहीं जीत पाए, ईरान में भी नहीं जीत पाएंगे. इफ दे डिप्लॉय, एंड दिस आई एम सेइंग विदाउट बीइंग अ सपोर्टर ऑफ अयतुल्ला खमेनी. तो अगर मॉरल ग्रैंड स्टैंडिंग लेने लग गए तो किस कंट्री से रिलेशंस रहेंगे. म्यांमार में अरक्कन आर्मी ने एरिया लिबरेट कर दिया है जहां अपना कालादान मल्टी मॉडल प्रोजेक्ट है. ओके, चीन नेशनलिस्ट काउंसिल आ चुका है बांग्लादेश म्यांमार बॉर्डर पर. तत्मादो, द मिलिट्री ऑफ म्यांमार, हाउस अरेस्टेड आंग सान सूची, वर्ल्ड क्रिटिसाइज्ड इट. ओबामा टोल्ड डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह that sever your ties with Myanmar. Dr. Singh rightly said it shares border with 4 of my northeastern states. These 4 northeastern states are suffering from varying degrees of insurgency. So whether democracy or tatmadaw, मैं तो बात करूंगा. बिल्कुल सही किया उन्होंने. Act of realism. So any conflict, थोड़ी हिस्ट्री जान लो, ओके, और मैप देख लो, you will understand it. इशू कैसे समझते हैं, why it has happened, what is India's stand? If India is taking a stand, what is the official reason? सरकार क्या बोल रही है? And the way forward, क्या करना चाहिए? इस पर इंडिपेंडेंट स्टैंड ले सकते हो. That yes, we need to be a bit more vocal about maybe Israel's attack on Gaza or Iran, or about Russia's attack on Ukraine. आप जब ग्लोबल साउथ की लीडरशिप चाहते हो तो ग्लोबल साउथ के कंसर्न्स को भी आर्टिकुलेट करना पड़ेगा. नहीं कर रहे हैं, उसके रीजंस हैं. दिस इज हाउ यू कंक्लूड एनी टॉपिक. डोंट डेविएट मच फ्रॉम द ऑफिशियल वर्जन. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड इट? एनी अदर थिंग? ओके देन, विश यू ऑल द बेस्ट.
The issue with most UPSC aspirants is not effort, it is foundation. A strong foundation means 3 things. Learn in the right sequence so subjects reinforce each other. Apply early through answer writing and testing. Correct continuously through proper diagnosis and feedback. This is what the GS Foundation course at Vision IAS is built around. Connected GS coverage, not isolated subjects. Early writing and testing, not last-minute panic. Diagnostic test analysis with clear corrective steps. Current affairs organized into usable themes for prelims and mains. Regular mentorship to prevent drift. Effort is common, structure is rare. If you are serious about UPSC, start by getting the foundation right. Upcoming classroom batches: Karol Bagh 9 March 11 am, 13 March 8 am and 24th March 5 pm. And GTB Nagar batches for English 17 March 8 am, 25 March 6 pm. And for Hindi, 16 March 11 am. For more details, visit our website or call us on the given numbers. prelims head on, because prelims is not just about knowledge, it's about performance under pressure. That's where Abhyas, the All India Prelims GS plus CSAT mock test comes in. Designed as a true exam simulation, Abhyas recreates the real UPSC. Prelims experience the same pattern, the same time constraints, and the same intensity. It places you in a national arena, competing with aspirants across India, backed by an all-India ranking that reveals your true standing. Attempted by 1 in 3 top 50 rankers, Abhyas has become a trusted benchmark for serious aspirants. With detailed post-test analysis, live discussions, and complete syllabus coverage in both English and Hindi, it ensures your preparation is not just extensive but exam-ready. 3 full-length offline simulations will be conducted across 100+ cities on 5th April, 19th April, and 10th May, from 9:30 am to 11:30 am for General Studies, that is Paper 1, and 2:30 pm to 4:30 pm for CSAT, that's Paper 2. Challenge your preparation, test your performance. For more information or register, visit our website or call us on the given number. Leaving your optional for last-minute preparation can cost you marks, when it could actually be your high-scoring advantage in mains. Vision IAS presents the Optional Classroom Program 2027, the perfect way to tune your preparation, sharpen your strategy, and master your optional subjects. With expert faculty, in-depth classroom teaching, regular answer writing practice, personalized mentorship, and high-quality study material, this program ensures you turn your optional into a scoring edge, not a last-minute pressure point. The next batch for anthropology, geography, history, physics, sociology, public administration, and political science and international relations begins on 18th March at 2 pm. Enroll today to master your optional and maximize your mains marks. To register, visit our website or call us on the given numbers. Prelims is not just about reading the syllabus, it's about understanding how UPSC converts the syllabus into questions. The most reliable way to understand that is through previous year's questions. At Vision IAS, Prelims PYQ Plus 2026 is designed to analyze 15 years of UPSC GS Prelims PYQs and turn them into a clear, exam-focused preparation plan. Starting from 25th February 8 am, in this program, PYQs are mapped subject-wise and topic-wise to identify high-yield areas. Trends and difficulty levels are analyzed to understand how the paper is evolving. Static and current affairs are taught together, the same way they appear in the actual exam. Practice is supported through Sandhan, with 25,000 plus MCQs, performance analytics, and AI-based doubt support, so improvement is targeted and measurable. The approach is structured into a 25-day focused program with live and recorded classes and personalized mentoring to keep preparation precise and exam-oriented. The objective is simple: to align your preparation with how UPSC actually tests in prelims. To register, visit our website or call us on the given numbers.